The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. Thank you for joining me on this Monday evening. Well, guys, it's been a very interesting week, to say the least. And before we get started on the show, I definitely just wanted to let everybody know what happened this week. We were planning on going live Thursday, but unfortunately, we had some family issues come up. And I guess there's really no easy way to say it, but unfortunately, my grandmother had passed away that Wednesday last week, so it was very hard on my family. And unfortunately, it's something that we have been keeping an eye on, and we knew that she was taking a turn for the worse, especially earlier in the year. So it was a very interesting situation that unfolded. And no one can really get you ready for those kind of things, especially when they show up like that. And it's unfortunate that it did. But, granted, we're just happy that it was one of those situations. She wasn't in pain. She went quietly. And for all of us, there's just different feelings to it. And she will be missed. And there's just a lot of thoughts, prayers, and reflections that have gone on, and I appreciate yours as well, that have shared that on the show. I appreciate all of you that have come on and expressed, your love for that, and I appreciate that as well, and my family does too. So originally we were going to be on Thursday, but unfortunately that arose, and, family takes everything first, so we went ahead and just put this on the back burner. And we're going to do it at a different time. So I feel Monday was going to be the most appropriate time. So I'm glad to be here. It's great to be talking football. It's been a very interesting few days, to say the least, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining me on the Power Hour. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. And let's go ahead and get into our top news today. I don't want to waste any time. Chris will be here a little bit later. He does know that the show's on, so he'll get in when he can, so no worries. We just roll along as we can. So jumping into business, it's our top news of the day, and I'm very excited to say that it seems like there's other players that are starting to get their payday, and Jameer Alexander from the Green Bay Packers is getting the bag. He is now the top paid corner at his position, 4-year extension worth $84 million, and a $30 million signing bonus. And really, it's funny, especially in the Packers situation. If you take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation, their defensive players are really all they have left now. And Jameer, I think, is one of the more premier cornerbacks. I think after a shoulder injury, really just kind of sidelined his expectations. You were really hoping to see him kind of break out next year, but it's easier to get him paid now, especially it's going to be a very open market, especially for teams that are very cornerback needy. And I don't have any doubt there's going to be teams that would very well pay him over what he would have been paid in the first place. So I'm not surprised Green Bay went ahead and gotten this done as soon as possible. So Alexander definitely has a great skill set. I think he's just scratching the surface of his potential. I think he's going to turn into a great shutdown corner if he continues playing at the level he can, but he has to stay healthy, of course. But there's a lot to like about him. He's very well beloved in the locker room. He's a great leader. He's just a great playmaker. And he can just make things happen, especially on busted plays. I've had a chance to watch a little bit of his film this morning just to kind of get the sense of why Green Bay wanted to give him an extension. And it's very clear why. I mean, you have a guy that was a huge playmaker, especially when he was healthy. And in the 2020 NFL players rankings, they had him ranked 44th, I believe, of the top 100 players in the league. So It's no surprise. It's not a shock. I do think guys like that consistently are pushing themselves to get better. I think they consistently push in simple ways of just handling business. So along those lines, you really have to say, and I guess everybody's wondering if they can hear me, and I'm trying to get a mic test in, and this is not good right now. It's not going how I was hoping it would, but hopefully we can get this sorted out. Hopefully that's working out now. Trying to do a mic test, so my apologies there. Otherwise, I'm just talking. Nothing's coming out, and you can't hear me. This is just not how I was planning the show to go. So, for the two people that are watching, my apologies. I'm trying to do a quick mic test, so my apologies. I'm trying to get better feedback. I don't have a lot of people talking on the chat yet, so. And it looks like we're clear, so my apologies. And I guess we'll go ahead and just try and start this over again for my one viewer. So my apologies to that. I'm Michael Bishop. Welcome to the Power Hour. Jumping in. As I was trying to say earlier, Yamir Alexander of the Green Bay Packers has signed a 4-year extension worth $84 million, $30 million signing bonus. So really just a really key piece here to sign in. A great guy. I think he's going to do well continuing his career in Green Bay. Definitely, I feel that it's just one of those situations. He's a player that Green Bay had to lock in. I do think it's going to be interesting going forward, especially who they want to sign going in the long term of things. But he was definitely one of the players I felt was going to be better going forward. So it's interesting to see Green Bay getting a lot of their younger guys locked in now, especially after paying Aaron Rodgers the bag. So I do think it was the right thing to do. I do think it's a situation where you have to pay your best guys. He was going to be a really hot commodity coming into free agency. So good thing for Green Bay, good thing for long term for Alexander. I think that's going to be the best way going forward. Then in our other story, it apparently seems that Rob Gromkowski might be looking at retirement once again. And if he does, I mean, there's no shame in it. The man's played a good decade and he's had a lot of success over that career, spanning between New England and between Tampa Bay now. So he's going to hold just about all the touchdown records and passing records in New England until somebody breaks that, which will be a while. So along those lines, Gronk was really just a phenomenal force that just came out of nowhere, and Tom Brady was just a big helping hand in that. But that doesn't diminish anything that he did in the success that he had in New England and especially at Tampa Bay. So, the guy's got Super Bowl rings, he's got records, he's got money, and there's just likability with him. So, I don't see a lot of people that generally just have any hate for Gronk. I think they can get annoyed with him at times, but at the same time, you got to love his athleticism. You got to love the way he plays the game, and you just love the fact that he enjoys playing the game. So a guy like Gronk, I wouldn't have a problem if he decided to retire again. I think just eventually, physically, he's probably just given all he can give. It was a good run with Tom. It was a good run with everybody else. I'm very pleased to see that he had a good career, especially in the tight end position, because usually these bigger guys tend to have a shorter career. And with the necessary amount of injuries that he sustained, it was very impressive that he continued to play at the level that he did. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did retire. I do think that playing's still on the table, but health-wise, I think he's really just trying to make sure that this is what he wants to do in the long run. So I don't think it's officially the call yet that he's going to retire. I think he'll still kind of wait. Maybe once training camp gets started, maybe he'll feel a little better. And really, he's not a guy I'd worried about getting into a training camp. I'm not worried about that. And I don't think any team that signs him, whether it be Tampa Bay, whether it be Cincinnati or anybody else out there, should try and make that a priority. I think the man knows what he's doing. He's going to be ready football wise. So I do think eventually Gronk might call it quits, but that's what I'm leaning towards. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did decide to play for a team. Really, along these lines, these older guys that have done a lot, they don't have much to prove. It's really up to him. And if he decides to play, then I think that football's better for it. And if he doesn't, well, at least we got to watch him play. And in our next story, we've got Marvin Ingram's definitely been an enigma of where he would land in his next contract. Last year, of course, going to the Steelers and just not fitting in just with the right mindset that they had, and eventually going to Kansas City for a one-term haul. So Ingram was definitely one of those cats that everybody's watching on the free agent market, especially if you needed a pass rusher. Unfortunately, he's not going to be the guy that you wanted, that doesn't have that kind of presence that he had about 5 or 6 years ago. But Ingram's still a seasoned veteran. He could still put up a couple of numbers. So I don't think it's a bad thing to take a chance on him. And for Miami, I like this signing. I think along the lines, you've got a guy that comes in. You're not asking him to do a lot. You're asking him to just kind of probably do some rotation stuff, maybe just kind of play some downs. But I don't expect him to play over at least 30 or 40 snaps. I think his talent range is enough to where if you rotate him enough, you keep him fresh, he's going to be one of those serviceable veterans that can help make a difference. And Miami's a very interesting team in that regard, especially with the defense. I like the front four that they have. I think their secondary is still good. I think that they had a really good draft. I think that they're a team that is going to continue to be on the rise. So I think along those lines, you add veteran presence on the defense. I think that helps tremendously. Melvin Ingram isn't going to be the dynamic defensive force that he was, but you're getting a serviceable veteran. You're getting a guy that can get the job done and a guy that knows how to rotate in and out of a defense. And I think it'll be a very serviceable, playable bet that the Miami Dolphins have basically put some eggs in the basket that I think will pay off for him. So Ingram going to Miami, I do like the move, and I think that for Miami, it's a good move, especially on a one-year deal. Then we go to our next story, and especially just other guys finding new homes, and apparently one player going home once again will definitely be that of our good friend Landry heading back to the Saints, going back to the Bayou as he was raised and born and played his college ball in. So Jarvis Landry is just definitely an interesting prospect here for the Saints. I do like the move, but in the sense, I do think it's just one of those one-year deals. You add a veteran, you add a guy that's a locker room presence, and I think he definitely makes the wide receiver room better, especially with the younger talent that you have. And really, you really don't have a lot of clarity of what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara for the season. So by no means is he a replacement, but I do think he's a very viable signing that adds depth to your receiving core and is a very serviceable receiver at that. So I like the chance they took here. I think the Saints have made some really bold moves, adding veteran presence on the defensive side and the offensive side. Last week, them going after Tyrann Mathieu, adding to their secondary. Curious at best, but still a very good move on a short-term deal. So 3 years for him. Landry getting a one-year deal heading to the Saints. And along those lines, you don't know what you have with Jameis Winston. I know he can do some good things, but at the same time, he can be careless. And that's just fact. He's always been kind of just an above-average quarterback at times. So if you're the Saints, I think this is the year that you want to put as many kind of good playmakers around him as you can possibly find and just see what he can do. I think with Landry, giving him a change of scenery, I think putting him with a different quarterback, I think that's a good thing. I think for really both him and Winston, maybe that's going to be a very serviceable connection down the regular season. So I'm not too far-fetched about that. I think it's a good move. On a short-term deal, I don't think the Saints are losing a lot. In fact, they know really the real competition they're going to have is with Tampa Bay. Atlanta's still kind of just in the middle. and Carolina's still kind of trying to figure out what they want to do. So if you're the Saints, you're really the number 2 team in a division that's kind of just working itself back up. Tampa Bay's the established favorite to win that division. But if you're the Saints, I think you have to do whatever you can to try and keep it competitive. And especially, you can go after Tom Brady. You can bring that tenacity and just that power that you're trying to bring back and bring back that simple touch that made Saints football so great, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s. So it's really going to be interesting to see Landry add his skill set here. I think he'll do fine. I think Winston will benefit from him, but really along those lines, it's going to depend on if Winston can elevate his game. So on a 1-year deal, I think it's a good set for the Saints and for Landry. And in our final bit of news, it appears that Deshaun Watson of the Browns will be meeting with the NFL officials sometime soon this week in Texas. The meeting's supposed to probably take place sometime this week from what I've heard. It's more than likely going to determine just the future of what Deshaun Watson's suspension, if any, he's given before the NFL season starts. And really, it's an interesting situation, especially after everything went down. Basically, we knew that everything was on the up for Watson. The cases were basically being dismissed. But along those lines, we knew in the civil cases that this could possibly be a thing. But along those lines, it looks like that the civil cases are still kind of up in the air and probably won't be even a thing at this point right now, where it seems like you have people backing out of that as well. But that's not going to stop the NFL from potentially suspending Watson for what happened. Now, I know that's a lot to take into consideration, but let's just hear me out on this. Ben Roethlisberger had gone through a similar situation with just one person and ended up with about a 3-game suspension. Watson, on the other hand, this was with multiple people, multiple accusations, and that's really all it's going to take. I expect Watson to be suspended. And if he doesn't, I'll be shocked. Along those lines, it's really hard to say that, especially knowing that there's a potential idea of what's going on. That there's a situation where the NFL has to make sure that they're trying to protect their fan base and they're trying to keep these things in line with what they're trying to accomplish as a league and with the public. So I know a suspension's coming. I think it's going to be coming. It's inevitable. So depending on how far they want to go with it, it could range from 4 to 8 games from what some people are saying. It's really going to come to the league and what they feel would be the necessary amount. And I know the NFL union will probably get involved and probably fight this, but it's very much inevitable, and I think it will happen. And I think in those instances, there's not a lot you can do about that, but the NFL has to do what is necessary to make sure that they are trying to make sure that this is a fair process, even with what had been ruled. And even with the ruling of the Ben Roethlisberger case, the NFL still took action above it because they wanted to make sure that these players know that this won't be tolerated. This kind of action will not be sustainable or even regarded in likeness to this league, and it is unacceptable. So I expect nothing less. I expect the NFL to move on it. And like I said, if he's suspended, I won't be shocked. But if he isn't, I kind of will be. Because in the long term, you kind of expect these things to happen. And with everything that's happened and everything that's gone on, it's very much inevitable that it was going to. So from the long-standing term of things, Deshaun Watson, in the court of public opinion, people have already made their minds up on what this situation is. And that's just how it works. It's not that I am trying to make any kind of thing out of it that it doesn't need to be, but at the same time, it is what it is. Your actions are basically what set forth what happens to you in the long term of things. And the court of public opinion is always going to have the end say at things, depending on whatever happened and whatever the situation was. And we all knew coming forward, we all knew that this could be that situation. So, as I said, Watson getting suspended. It wouldn't be a surprise to me. In fact, 4 to 8 game suspension, it could be possible. It could be what happened, but we'll just have to wait and see. All right, guys, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm very happy to be back on the air. We'll take a quick 30-second break, and when I come back, I've got a really good setup of Titans games that I think are going to be the best Titans games to see this year. I'll break down why I like them and what I think they're going to bring to the table. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, and I'll be back in 30 seconds. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me on this Monday evening. It's great to be back. It's great to be talking to football. It's great seeing everybody in. I've been excited about getting this show back up. It's just been a rough week. I'm just glad I was able to get through all these rough situations at hand. So it's just nice to be back doing this. It kind of just let a little steam off. When you don't get a chance to do the show, you definitely just miss being around. You miss the preparation of it, and it's just great to be on, and it's great to just see everybody here. It just definitely is a breath of fresh air, and I am just feeling very just fortunate and very grateful that I'm able to do this tonight. And also to remind you, don't forget our contest. That's right, you could win an official Mitchell & Ness Eddie George jersey. That's all you have to do. Go to our YouTube page. Make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Go to our Twitter page and make sure that you like, follow, and share with the hashtag Power Hour Giveaway. I want to give this thing away on June the 1st at 12 p.m. So please, share this, get this out with everybody. It's at our webpage as soon as you go to Twitter, right there. So make sure you share it and make sure that you're entered for this. I want to give this thing away. I want to get as many people involved with this as possible. So make sure that you get out there, share it. Let's get out there and do it for everybody. I'd appreciate it. I want to give this thing away, and I want to make sure everybody's got a chance at it. So make sure that you do that. And don't forget, if you love the show, help it grow. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. You know we're putting out good content for you. You know I have to put out good content for you because there's a lot of other great people out there, but I'm going to do my best and put out the best for you because it's what I do. I want to make sure that you come on the show and you're excited every time that I put it out. That you're as excited as I am to make sure that you hear it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump on our little screen. And as we get ready, as it went down Thursday, the NFL schedule dropped, and there are a lot of great games on tap, and there are some very questionable ones also to bring into that kind of camaraderie. So I had to ask myself, as the Tennessee Titan fans look at the schedule, what are the games that are going to be the most interesting from a big standpoint? And I really had a hard time picking just 5 games. So it really was hard. I really felt to just pick 5 games wouldn't be fair. There's just too many good matchups. There's too many good storylines, especially leading up to some of these. I just couldn't pick 5. So what I did was I picked 6. And in the spirit of that, I felt that this was the best necessary step. I felt I was very excited. I was very admirable that these are 6 games that are going to draw a lot of attention to Tennessee Titans fans, I think, especially from a national standpoint. And they're definitely going to set up, especially in the best time of the year, when the schedule gets a little harder. So in that spirit, we'll go ahead and get it started. And here are my top 6 games for the 2022 season for the Tennessee Titans. And let's go ahead and throw them up on the board for you. And starting out, I have to go with the obvious one that a lot of people were very wishy washy about. Tennessee going to Lambeau Field. I know a lot of fans didn't want this game to be in December. They didn't want to be any time where it was going to snow. That being said, I know that kind of gives people flashbacks of the 2020 season where they went and played Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football, and the whole situation was a mess. So, really, everybody was just kind of keeping their fingers crossed. They were just hoping for maybe sometime in October or even earlier in the season would have been good. And November 17th, it's going to be an interesting time. It could be decent, it could be cold. Really, with the entire weather the way it is right now, it's hard to say. I mean, it could snow, it could, but I do feel that the time and the matchup, it's a good setup. I think that right here, Thursday night matchup, it's right about mid-November before Thanksgiving, so hopefully it'll be just chilly. If we get a chilly game, that's fine. No snow, that's doable. And I'll give props to Thursday night football. They went all out this year. There's not a lot of bad games on a Thursday night docket. I mean, with the exception of maybe Jets, Jaguars, that's probably the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But this year, Thursday night football, they got a lot of great matchups. And this one right here, I feel, is another great one and another great example. I like the fact that Tennessee was able to get some more primetime games this year. It's unfortunate that they fell into the trap of being in this position of having those as away games. So I guess in that sense, you really just kind of have to laugh it off. It is what it is. But along the lines, I think these teams, are coming in different situations. Aaron Rodgers is trying to find a replacement for Devontae Adams. Tennessee is trying to find out if they can find their guy that can step up and put up A.J. Brown numbers, which I know will be a little hard. And I know it's asking Treylon Burks a lot to do, but it's also asking the entire wide receiver core to see who can come and step up and be a playmaker at this time, which is what these guys are paid to do. So along those lines, I think it's a great matchup. I think the timing is just right. Tennessee is going through a tough game stretch right now, and the Packers fall into that situation. So it will make it more intriguing. It'll make it a little more difficult, but I can't say that it's really going to be a snow game or not. But along those lines, for the best thing, I think it's going to be a cold game. If the snow stays away, I think this definitely is a more advantage for the Titans. Moving on to our next primetime game, and this one's definitely becoming like an unofficial favorite of some fans, and it's the Chiefs and the Titans. And the rivalry's been growing for the past 3 or 4 years. And each time they played, the Tennessee Titans have done well in the regular season, but unfortunately, in the 2020 season, in the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs prevailed and ended up going to the Super Bowl and winning. Now, that being said, I think each matchup that these teams have played in, they've been physical. You've had some games that have been close. I know last year's game that I and my wife had gone to, we had a great time. It was really just an offensive blowout. The defense came up and they showed out, frustrating Patrick Mahomes. So it was really just it was just an enjoyable game all in all. So the fact I enjoy that Sunday night picked this game up, I think it's going to be a great matchup, especially in Kansas City. The stars are definitely going to be aligned for this one. And I think, once again, Tennessee's coming into a tougher stretch of their schedule. I think it's going to be a great test. And really, it's kind of like the gauntlet of last year where Tennessee had to play 5 tough teams. And that's the same situation here. I think they're going to play 5 tough teams, especially after their bye week. That's basically going to be the start of their road to the playoffs. Can they go ahead and face that adversity midseason and come out on top? And from how we've seen the last couple of seasons, Mike Vrabel's a great motivator. He's a great teacher. He's found a way to get this team ready. And I think this is a great setup. I think it's a great matchup. I love the time setup. Tennessee's definitely getting more attention once again on the national circuit. So, Sunday night is probably another night for Tennessee to come out and shine. But I expect Patrick Mahomes to do what he does, but I expect the Titans to do what they've been doing. And then, of course, I have to bring up just a regular game. And, of course, most of the games that I've already picked, you're already seeing a trend that they're falling in November. And really, it's It's not a hard choice. I mean, the way the schedule fell, you had games that were falling in the November set, and I just had no choice. So, you know, it's a rematch from last year. Russell Wilson's on a different team, but I like the talent that's around him. I think the Broncos are definitely going to be a tough team. I think they filled some pretty decent holes in the draft. The biggest question is, can they elevate that and do something with it? So the matchup right here, I think it's a playoff matchup. I think it's another good test for the Tennessee Titans. Along those lines, you have to find that kind of tenacity and you have to find that kind of energy to get this thing going. So I don't have a problem with them playing a tough team in this kind of stretch. You want to face these kind of challenges. You want to face this kind of team that's going to give you some fits and give you a little bit of just frustration. And you need to test yourself. And once again, Tennessee has found themselves in the middle of a schedule that puts them in another gauntlet for the 2022 season. So I think Russell Wilson coming in, I think this is going to be a situation where the Titans are going to have to show that their defense is elevated to another stat. Their offense is going to have to show up and find the other playmakers that they need to be successful. So it's not going to be an easy challenge. But that's why you play these games. You play these games to find that challenge and to elevate yourself into premier contention. So test-wise, I think Tennessee's going to have to really just buckle down, and they're going to have to keep their guys healthy this season, especially in this tough stretch. So along those lines, it's going to be a lot of heavy lifting once the middle of the season rolls around, and this game will definitely not be a slouch. And adding another primetime game to the mix, and this one will be right at the tail end of the season. December 29th, Cowboys will visit Nissan Stadium to play the Titans on Thursday Night Football. Yes, another Thursday night matchup. But here's the thing. It's the Cowboys. They're always going to have attention, whether it's good or bad. Whether you like the Cowboys or you hate the Cowboys, they're always a draw. They're always going to be watched. They're always going to be talked about, no matter what. Regardless of whatever it is, the Cowboys get a lot of views on television. Whether you love them or you hate them, they get watched. So I think, once again, Tennessee in a primetime spotlight. They're probably going to be playing for a lot on the line, especially as the season goes on. As we've known, the Titans generally get themselves in a position where they're trying to finish up, they're trying to win the division, where they're trying to kind of secure themselves into a playoff race. This game's definitely going to be a test there. So the Cowboys, while they have a lot of question marks of their own, I still think they've got a good quarterback. I still think along the lines their defense is good enough to help them win some games. But you definitely have question marks just like the Titans do on the other side. So I think it's a game of interest. I think both teams are definitely going to have a lot to answer for going forward. But I still think it's an intriguing matchup. I think especially to end basically the 2021 year, that's a pretty good matchup. I like the fact that it's going to be on a Thursday night. I think everybody's going to be kind of settled in. I think basically, of course, after another turnaround, that's another test. Basically, the Titans have done very well, especially on short turnarounds. So once again, I think it's a season with a lot of question marks on both ends, and the Titans definitely have to find themselves in a position to where it's going to get them elevated in a playoff race. And you have to play quality teams, especially to lock your position in the playoffs. And of course, Dallas, like I said, it's really hard to say what they are. I do think they're a fairly decent team. I think that they have some things that could help them win games, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But along those lines, more than likely, like I said, Tennessee is going to find themselves probably fighting for playoff position. Every game's going to count at this point. So they have to do what they can, especially on a short turnaround week. They have to get themselves prepared. It's a great game of interest. And once again, like I said, Thursday Night Football nailed it. I'm very impressed. I mean, if I can say anything positive about Amazon Prime Video taking over these NFL games, they really picked some really good games. And I mean, it's just incredible the matchups that we've got this year. And you look at probably the last 4 years of what we got. We're just if anything, average to good matchups. So I like this one. I like the test here. I like the fact that the Titans are going to have a chance to play at prime time again. see what they can do, and we'll see if it'll help with the playoff position going forward. And of course, this isn't my number one game. But believe me, if I could tie it, I would. Every fan still feels the sting of that game in January. I know they do. I know in some sense it's still on just the minds of every Titans fan, and it just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But this is the game everybody wants to see. It falls in November, and yes, it's another test in November with what will be this gauntlet coming up in November after their bye. So you look at what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be coming into this year. They've revamped their offensive line. Of course, they've lost a couple of playmakers, but I still think this team's good enough to win their division. I still think this team's good enough to get in the playoffs and potentially make another deep run, even with the state that their defense is in. Joe Burrows is going to be a nightmare for many teams. And I said this when he got drafted. I felt as soon as I evaluated him on tape and I evaluated him on his pro day, I just looked at this kid and I knew you got a star. This kid's going to be a transcendent quarterback superstar if they can continue to put the right pieces around him. And Cincinnati went out. They spent money on the offensive line, which is what they had to do to keep him protected. And he still has some of the best wide receivers in the game at the under the age of 24 that can continue to be serviceable and can continue to wreak havoc at this point. That being said, Tennessee's defense, to me, is going to be the key in a lot of these games. And believe me, I've said this as soon as the offseason started. A lot of people aren't going to look at Tennessee like they were and see what they haven't, especially on the national media circuit. The national media is going to say, A.J. Brown's gone, Derrick Henry's coming off an injury. They're going to sell those narratives. They're going to forget the fact that Tennessee actually has a pretty damn good defense. Take away the fact that their passing defense was 24th in the league. Let's just remind you of that. But I will say this. They're going to get Caleb Farley back, 100%. And from what they've been saying, he's been doing very well with his rehab. He's been looking very good, and he's doing what he's been told to do, so he's been raved about that. They go out and sign Roger. They go out and get Roger Mccree in the draft. A lot of people were questionable about that, but I said to a lot of people, this might be one of the best shutdown corners that they drafted. He was underrated, but along those lines, look at the film. Against Alabama, against Arkansas, he wreaked havoc. The man can shut down people, and he can frustrate them. So I like that addition as well. And also on the defensive front, Rashad Weaver is coming back. Had an ACL tear, shut down his season for the year. And as of that, it seems like there's a lot more going on. It seems like right then and there, you're looking at a potential defense that could elevate itself if their passing game can actually help them out. And we all knew going forward what this defense was going to be. And especially the fact that they signed Harold Landry to a long-term deal, they knew that he was going to be a key contributor to this defense. They're going all in. So this is basically going to be, this could be a chess match. Once again, we could potentially see a game like we saw in January where it's going to come down to the defense, and it's going to come down to maybe who has the last possession. Unfortunately for us, the end result of that was 3 turnovers. And that's the unfortunate part. Now, I'm hoping that on the secondary that we can turn that into more turnovers on our end. I hope that's the difference maker. I hope that this defense can come out and win this game. Because I'm expecting Tennessee's defense to do that. I'm expecting that Mike Vrabel is going to challenge this unit and say, look, there might be a time where I have to have you guys try and step up and hold this game or win this game. So it's not going to be out of the question. Do I think they can? Of course they can. They sacked the man 9 times in a playoff game. And even with a revamped offensive line, I still think he's going to be uncomfortable. I still think they could get about maybe 2 or 3 or 4 sacks, depending on if they get the right schemes out, which I have no doubt they can. So that being said, I feel that this is the game Tennessee fans are going to look forward to the most as the second game, not the first. On a home stretch, I would say yes. This is the one they want. This is the one they're excited for. That's what's the selling point. It's a revenge game. And really, I mean, it could potentially be flexed, especially going forward into the season if both these teams end up with really good records. So that's not out of the possibility either. So Tennessee could have a fifth primetime game if things work out the way they should, which is going to lead us to our top game. And this should surprise no one. And if it does surprise you, it's kind of shocking that it is that surprising, but it's not. And really, along the lines, it's the game that most Titans fans are going to be paying attention to. December 4th, Lincoln Financial Field. Every Titan fan is going to be glued on their television set. And it doesn't matter how your feelings are with A.J. Brown is, whether you hate him for this move, whether you're indifferent to this move, this is going to be a huge watch game. And the selling point here is it's revenge again. It's a great storyline. A.J. Brown wanted to get paid. Tennessee apparently lowballed him for what they said. But unfortunately, for A.J. Brown, you had a guy that was coming off at least 2 years with at least missing 2 to 3 games. And availability is key. You can't just not be available. You know, AJ is a serviceable wide receiver, but the money he's demanding was money that you pay guys that are at least top 5 in their stats. He was never top 5 in touchdowns. He was never top 5 in receiving yards. He was never top 5 in yards after catch. And that's just the truth. You can see it as a low ball offer, but the truth is you had a player that just wasn't living up to his capabilities. And it's not that I'm trying to down what A.J. Brown did. The man was probably the best, if not the best, third down receiver to be relied on in any situation. But that's only as good as your other stats. And I always say this, if you're trying to get paid, make sure that what you do matches what you're trying to earn. And what A.J. Brown was trying to earn was top 5 wide receiver money. You know, Devontae Adams, I would pay that money. Tyreek Hill, I would pay that money because they're in top 5 in their stats. That's no problem. A.J. Brown, on the other hand, has not been. And the realistic thing is, in these situations, that's really why talks broke down. And Tennessee obliged his trade, whether how it went down or not. Let's just be honest in this situation. Tennessee took a bad situation, and with it, they were able to cash in and add some more quality depth. And I know a lot of fans are still sore about it. I know some fans are still dealing with it, and it's going to take time for some other people to get over it. But the thing is, without this trade, Tennessee wouldn't have been in position to get a lot of the guys that they had. And this was a very quality draft. This was a draft where I felt it fulfilled a lot of needs and a lot of question marks that the Titans had coming into the season and potentially next season. So I feel good knowing that they prepared themselves down the road for at least the next 3 to 4 years in some of these positions. It's unfortunate losing a talent like A.J. Brown. And let's not sugarcoat it. The man's all right under 24. He's still scratching the surface of his prime. But I will say this, like I've said about other big physical receivers. The problem with those guys, they don't have a long shelf life. They're only as good as their body will let them. Some guys, if they can get past their 30s, injuries hit them hard. Terrell Owens is a big example of that. Julio Jones, we thought he was going to try and cap on the prime that he had. Unfortunately, he was only available for only a certain amount of games. And that's just what happens with these big physical guys. A.J. Brown is a big physical wide receiver. And I hope for his sake he's able to find success in Philly. I don't wish the man anything bad. I hope for his sake he's able to stay healthy and bring something new to the table. I think there's still tread on the tires. I think he can be very serviceable to the Eagles at this point. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I don't have any hard feelings. It's a business. As I've said, when the trade went down, it's a business. I understand it. But I'm just going to warn any Eagles fan out there, you're probably going to see him miss some games. That happens. He's had knee issues. It's part of the game. Big physical wide receivers tend to come into these problems. So you have to keep his minutes low, but he's a physical guy and he practices physical. Everything he does at a physical high level. And I hope for his sake that doesn't burn him out. And I really would like to see him succeed. I have no hard feelings towards this trade, but at the same time, Tennessee benefited from as well. But the storyline for this game, it's a great matchup. And that's one Titans fans. If you're a Titans fan, you're going to be watching. It's going to pique your interest. It's all about revenge at this point for you, and I understand. I don't have bad blood about it, but along those lines, things like this, they tend to just have really good setups. They tend to just make things interesting, and that's fine. I think it's an interesting matchup. I think it has been, even when the trade went down, that it was going to be a good narrative moving forward. Hell, this could be a flex game. Once again, I believe between like the weeks 5 through the end of the season, the NFL can flex whatever the game they want. If it's a game of interest, if they're two teams with winning records, that happens. The NFL can do this. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. So that just makes it a little more intriguing. But along the lines of storyline, I think that's going to be the selling point there. A lot of fans are going to be interested in it. It's going to be the Titans on the road. So winning a game in Philadelphia, it's a very big accomplishment as well. So no shortage of good games here. I'm very excited with how the NFL set up their season. I think for most of the teams, there's a lot of good matchups. And I think going through all that, it's definitely going to set up a very successful season for the Titans. I will break down what I potentially think that they'll get to or how many games they'll win down the road because I don't want to give up too much. I want to keep you a little excited, keep you coming back for more shows. That's what I do. Well, all right, guys, we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and we come back. I'm going to have my evening debate and discuss what game I think is the game of the year. I think garners the most interest. Of course, everybody's going to have their opinion, but hey, it's my forum, and I'm going to throw out what I think is the best on my terms. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, and we'll be back in 30 seconds.
What-oh, looks like somebody's bored. Oh no, what to do on such a lazy day? Well, guess what? I've got a great suggestion for you to help you stop boredom. And that's follow the Power Hour on TikTok. And guess what? We'll be bringing back our daily PowerPoint videos, so you can check those out daily. So just do it and find us on TikTok at the Power Hour 615.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me on this Monday evening. It is great to be on tonight. I want to thank you all for all your thoughts and prayers, especially with the situation that happened later in the week. It's definitely been just a very solemn and very just reflective week, especially with what had happened. So once again, thank you for your thoughts, your prayers, and your reflections. I definitely thank you from the bottom of my heart, and my family does as well, especially with the situation at hand. So thank you once again. And I definitely want to remind you, don't forget we are having a contest giving away Mitchell and Ness Eddie George limited edition jersey. And I want to make sure everybody's got a chance to win that. So make sure that you go subscribe on our YouTube page and ring the bell. And don't forget, hit the Twitter page, subscribe, follow, hashtag the Power Hour giveaway, and you're automatically entered. So please, we'll be giving that away on July 1st at 12 p.m. I want to get as many entries as possible. So make sure you share that with everybody. Make sure that you hashtag Power Hour giveaway. We will be doing that at the beginning of July. So please make sure you share that. I want to get this thing out, guys. It's a beautiful jersey. Somebody's got to get it, and I want to make sure they get it. Well, all right, guys. As I said before, I feel that there's going to be a lot of great games this year. I felt that going into the NFL season, there's always one matchup that intrigues a lot of interest, and everybody's going to have a different self opinion of where it goes and who eventually finds a way to make it work. So, as you look at the season and how it progresses, I definitely feel in a situation of where you come into the season and you just look at these matchups. It's always going to be about storyline of what pushes the narrative, of what is coming down to the very brass tacks of it all. So I look at the situation here and I see a lot of great games on tap. And you think, well, you think one of the younger games, especially starting out the season, you've got the Rams, you've got the Bills. It's a very interesting game. It's a very easy construct to see that this could be like the game of the year, but I don't think it is. I think you have to look at it from perspective of especially what's on the line, what's the selling point. It's always an interesting setup and scenario of what goes forward in these games and what they bring to the table, like I said. And when I look at the game of the year, in my mind, there's only one. And it's of the simplest forms. You look at tradition, you look at greatness. And those are the games that people watch. They watch games for players. They watch players that they love. They watch players that they hate. They watch storylines that are intriguing. And the NFL does a great job at selling these games and the intrigue in them. So, what is the best intriguing story coming into 2022? And the easiest answer is the Packers and the Bucks. And it'll be an early game. It's September 25th, 4:25 on Fox. And there you go. I mean, we thought Tom Brady was going to be out of the league. We thought that he was going to be retired, and it was going to be Aaron Rodgers' chance to finally shine. Maybe Matt Stafford being a thorn in his side in the NFC. But unfortunately, fate would have it. Brady is going to come back for at least another year. We'll see how that goes along the way, but still, you get to see a matchup between two first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And I don't think you could ask for anything more. I think you're asking for a great setup. I think you're asking for a great storyline, which is what people want to watch. And in these situations, it's always going to come down to interest. Whether you love Brady or hate him, or whether you love Rodgers or you hate Rodgers, that's what it boils down to. That's the key component to these games. It's the interest. And you have two of the best quarterbacks in the league. One that's the potential greatest regular season quarterback against the all-time great quarterback. And the debate's endless on it. You know, that's the selling point all week. And I guarantee you the NFL and Fox are going to sell this thing like crazy. You know, games like this, especially around talent, and I can only compare it to maybe the Brady Manning matchups. And it's hard to, because especially there's just a lot of mystique with those games. You had areas where they just played each other, and it was intriguing because also they were in the same conference. They generally were in the AFC championship games or in the AFC divisional rounds, and they always put on a show. And that's the same thing for what Brady and Rodgers are putting on right now. You know, we thought at that time that Brady was going to hang it up. We thought that was it. And that's really the biggest reason why this game, in my mind, is going to be the most interesting storyline. You know, will this be Tom Brady's last year? Will this be just another year that he adds to the table? Is he going to move on after this? It's hard to say right now. And the selling point is that it's intriguing. And it's a simple explanation, but that's the truth. Intrigue sells. And you can't ask for a better matchup than what's on the table right now. Tradition. You've got excellence on both sides. The historic quarterback matchups that we live for in a lot of these NFL games, especially growing up, You wanted to see the greats pit themselves against each other. You had Marino and Elway. You had early on, Aikman and Marino, or you had just countless examples that I can't just think of because there's just way too many. And that's just part of it, and it's just intriguing. And I am just telling you right now, throughout the entire situation, you look at these games, it's very crucial the NFL sells the quarterback matchup. You're not going to get a better matchup other than maybe the younger guys playing the younger guys. Maybe if Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes playing, that's an intriguing game. Or like I said at the beginning of the year, you've got Matthew Stafford and you've got Josh Allen playing each other. That's intriguing. Or Russell Wilson and Josh Allen playing each other. That's intriguing. But I can't think of any matchup more deserving or more attention gathering than, like I said, probably the potential greatest quarterback of the regular season playing the potential GOAT. You don't get that every day. And the fact that we are getting that for one more year, I'm very excited to see that matchup. Can Brady continue to play at that high level, coming back after what was considered a disappointment year? Aaron Rodgers trying to get out of any kind of divisional or NFC championship funk that the Packers continue to be in. Eventually, one of these two teams could go to the Super Bowl. Not counting the Rams out, but you look at this. This is very much an NFC championship matchup, possibly. And you potentially never get to see these two play each other again. I mean, it's very much possible. And it's hard to say because I don't know if Brady will come back next year. I don't know if this will be just kind of a last hurrah. Aaron Rodgers could retire after this. I don't know. You don't get to see these kind of matchups every day. When you get to see this amount of greatness in one game, you got to sell the hell out of it. And the NFL practically just has it sitting in her lap, and it's easy. Just sell it. Make sure you're marketing it. Do like you do every year when these matchups come up. Make sure you're putting it out there. Make sure you're getting all the interest garnered out there. That's what sells this league. People want to see greatness play greatness. And it's gone throughout the beginning of the league all the way up till now. In many generations, we've seen it with many different players. And in our case, Brady and Rodgers is the best you can get on television right now. And Al Pierce joining us on the show, and he says, tighten up, go Titans, kick massive tail, /oil struck. And guys, unfortunately, Titans and Truth won't be on tonight. It's my fault. There's a schedule conflict, but I will get him on again soon, potentially next week. But that's on me. We wanted to get him on, but like I said, there's a lot going on this week, and it's just definitely interesting to say the least. But I do want to say again, thank you for your thoughts and prayers, especially with the situation with my grandmother. She had passed away on Wednesday. It had been a very hard and trying time for the family. And, there's just been thoughts, there's been reflections. And really just all I can say right now is, in situations like this, there's a lot of things that come to mind. We all say to ourselves, especially when these situations happen, we wish that we would have said more things. We wish we could have done more things. And really just hope that we gave enough time and just love and effort that we had with this person that meant a lot to us. And of course, there's other things that come into fruition, It's important to remember, especially in situations that you can't control, to just know that you gave everything that you could give. And that we're imperfectly perfect humans. So it's important. Make sure that to take the time with the loved ones that you have, and just say that you love them every day when you have the time to say it. Hug that person when you get a chance to hug them. Kiss them on the cheek or kiss them on the forehead if you get a chance to. Be the loving son or daughter or granddaughter or grandson or nephew or niece while you have these people in your lives. And even if there's things that you can't control or there's situations that have arisen where you feel like that there's bad blood, and this happens with some of us, it's important to remember in life, you can't let that define you. That those situations that happen, and all you can do is just let that be just a part of you. Don't let it be who you are. Let it be something that guides you in life, and let it be something as a reminder of how strong you are, of what you can come through if you truly put yourself in a position to let yourself not be brought down through adversity and through hard times. That is truly just the amazing thing of the human spirit. And we see it every day. And if we get to be around people that have that ability to just take bad things and to just soldier forward, it's an amazing thing to see. And it's an amazing feeling to have, especially if you're the one going through it. So, on that note, I want to make sure that everybody knows I'm very appreciative of your continued prayers, like how Pierce has brought up. And I thank you, Al, for that and your thoughts and your reflections. It means a lot to me and my family. And I'm sorry once again we had to delay the show, but family comes first in situations like this. But it's just good to be back on. It's good to be talking football, just to get a few things and just to get away from the real world for maybe an hour. So I thank you once again for joining me on the show tonight. Don't forget, if you love us, help us grow, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. Make sure on your way out of the YouTube channel that you like and subscribe. And don't forget, once again, make sure you enter our Eddie George jersey giveaway. We're giving away a brand new Mitchell and Ness Eddie George jersey. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get signed up for that. Hit our YouTube page, subscribe, hit Twitter, make sure that you follow, and you hashtag. Make sure you use the hashtag after you share with Power Hour giveaway. We want to get this thing given away on July 1st. So make sure you share that with everybody that you know that's a Titans fan. I am really excited about this giveaway. I want to give everybody a chance to have a shot at this thing. It's a gorgeous jersey, whether you want to wear it, whether you want to hang it up, do what you want. It's yours. It's a giveaway, baby. It's what I'm all about. I'm all about making you all happy. And on that note, I want to make sure to thank you all once again for joining me on the Power Hour tonight. And thank you for all your continued support. We continue to be successful. We continue to grow because of the support that you give. And it's important to make sure that you know that I'm very appreciative of the time that you take to stop by and watch our little show that we continue to grow, because you're the reason why it's successful. So I thank you gratefully for all the fanship and all the support that you give. But I'm Michael Bishop of the Power. Take care and tighten up.